is the way I usually go when I try to get on the trail. Still on PSA 1. This car is making a... Oh, I thought it was making a U-turn, but he's not. Going to be mostly on PSA 2. It's 16 miles to Cary Park, and then 36 miles, of course, round trip. It's always nice to see parents encouraging the little ones to go out and ride. You know, because now these days it's kids playing video games on their iPads, iPhones, and Android phones, and that's something that me, being an older person, never had that, and it's just different now these days. So it's a whole different generation, and you know, get the kids out there, let them have fun, let them get fit. How are you guys doing? It's June 26, 2017. It's a Monday. I had it yesterday off, and yesterday's weather was the highest this year for Seattle, around I think 94 degrees, give or take. And then today, completely different story. It's in the very low 70s, high 60s. When I left my house, it was 71 degrees. Feels a bit cooler right now, going against the headwind. And I'm wearing shorts. I'm actually wearing, alright, you guys can't tell, swimming shorts. It's just, it's like, oops, it's like Under Armour, very thin. I'm assuming very breathable because it is swimming trunks. And it feels good, actually. I couldn't decide which e-bike to go. I considered the Sounders, but because of the big battery, it's just, you know, it screams I'm an e-bike. And then at the time, here in Seattle, Washington, they had the Rovers. Now, when I purchased the bike, they didn't have the Rad City, which I probably would have bought if I didn't go with the FLX. Just because it was local, and I could have just picked it up and not wait until January 19th when I got this bike. But in all, I'm very happy purchase. In all, I'm actually very happy with FLX branding. And if you guys here are local in Seattle and you want to test ride the FLX bike, just hit a comment below, or even go to the Facebook forum on FLX. I have about 3 locals here, Chris and Paul. Chris and Paul, they're actually in the West Seattle area. I'm in the North Seattle area. If you want to give us a message to test ride the bike. June 26, 2016, 5:58 p.m. is when I ordered. At the time was FLX. Actually, at the time it was Flux, FLUX. They had to change it to FLX because of a branding name in Europe. And I ordered my trail versus getting a roadster. Roadster looked really nice. Skinny tires, sleek, even though it has the same frame design. And for that week, a couple of days before I purchased this e-bike, I couldn't decide between the 13 amp and the 17 amp battery. And ultimately I choose the trail because of the front suspension. Because of the trails from my house to Seattle, as you can see right now, it's all bumpy. The trail to my work is all smooth. So it was the best choice that I made. The other choice was 13 amp versus a 17 amp battery. Granted, I couldn't afford the 17 amp, which would have added an extra $300 on top of the battery, or on top of the bike. And there's pros and cons to, in my opinion, getting the 17 amp and a 13 amp. The 13 amp, in my opinion, this is my opinion, okay, it makes me feel like I can't go far enough, you know? It'll make you use your leg power. Right now I'm on PSA 2, and conserve as much battery until you get to a destination that you know you can ride on the way back home on a higher PSA and get more of a workout versus a 17 amp battery, where I feel like if I were to got that, I'd be relying more on the, it's still flashing here, more on the battery itself and not using let's see here, no cars. What was I saying? I got a little lost there, just making sure that there was no cars. But using the 17 amp battery, I felt like I would be using more of the energy, electricity, more wattage. Not saying be lazy about it, but you could go further. So the con of getting a 13 amp battery was here in Seattle, we have a bike program, Seattle Cascade. We're all over Washington. Granted, with a fee, you can join other riders on a 25, 40, 75, and 100 mile bike ride. Now I know my 13 amp battery could go probably at least 60 if I were to be conservative about it and not rush it, you know? Where if I were to buy the 17 amp battery, I could have probably done 100 miles with no problem at all. So that's the pros and cons in my opinion. And granted, it was a $300 extra purchase if you were to do the 17 amp.